Alright, it's time to discuss the sixth film I saw at the 2026 Melbourne International Film Festival, one of the world premiere screenings for a film called Wilderness. Let's get into it. This film is an Australian production directed by Martin McKenna, who was actually in attendance for this screening with one of the cast members as well as the cinematographer. And beforehand, there was this sort of insightful introduction to the film. This was a film that wanted to tell a lot about the environment and the way that it is falling apart over time. Martin McKenna proudly said that making this movie took 1/6 of the carbon footprint of your regular film, which is definitely an achievement worthy of praise. So definitely a big congratulations there for really trying to be environmentally savvy while putting together this film. And it is something that spoke really true to Martin McKenna, his passions, and what he wants from the world. And we get this really nice introduction to the film, utilizing an excellent use of sound design as well as mixing while telling that impactful message. You get introduced to this film straight away by a series of lectures from one of the characters who records sounds from the environment and compares sounds of rainforests and an entire ecosystem being recorded 30 years ago versus now. And what we heard 30 years ago was a lot more louder with a lot more diversity in what we're hearing, really illustrating how humans destroying the environment have really impacted a lot of these ecosystems and all of the wildlife that inhabits it. And after this really promising start, unfortunately, Wilderness just completely falls apart and just doesn't manage to execute on anything that it wanted to talk about at all, because it chooses to prefer other things that completely distract from the main narrative and the main messaging behind the movie, while also being very uninteresting in the process. This is a tale supposedly of two friends. You have that environmentalist recording sounds that has this passion for different ecosystems and wildlife and things of that nature. And then you have this other character who is the one that we predominantly follow, who is a mother who is going through a bit of a tough time. She's in a rocky relationship. She doesn't get on very well with her daughter. And after getting some admittedly nice shots of Melbourne, she gets into a car accident and takes off and then goes on this adventure with the environmentalist. And you just get thrown into a very generic family drama following this character. And while all of this stuff doesn't sound too bad on paper, this character, this protagonist that we're following, is so unbelievably unlikable that it is hard to root for her at all. I mean, she goes out of her way to just be a terrible person while also whinging about the situation she's in because she's a terrible person. And the film just keeps pushing that, keeps going on with that. And we're now going in a completely different direction than what was initially set up and what Martin McKenna was describing about this movie. And it's a real shame, because I do feel like when the film really goes into that environmental storytelling and telling that message, I think the film can really be impactful and have all of this potential. But that is not the movie that we get. While Martin McKenna can say all of these things about the message and everything, what I saw on the screen was not really that message at all. It was more of a little subplot thrown in that was, I guess, nice to have. But in actuality, when you're looking at the main narrative here and what it's actually talking about, it just feels like a little side gig that you could easily dispose of rather than the main crux of the movie. And that is a real shame, because that side subplot was far more interesting, with a far more interesting character, a far more likable character there who has this genuine passion for something. And I do think if you followed that character and captured all of these beautiful naturalistic shots of the Victorian Alps, which are admittedly just absolutely beautiful. I've climbed some of Victoria's mountains myself, and I absolutely love those experiences and connecting with the world in such a way. It's unlike anything else, and I wanted the movie to really go into that, but it just doesn't. You're following this character make a bunch of self-destructive choices, get thrown into this big hike, which she complains about the entire time, sees something very astonishing in nature, disregards it completely, starts just berating this character for caring and having such a deep passion for the environment, for something, despite what people may think of her. And then we get this twist, and I won't spoil the twist in case you're going to watch this movie, but the twist is idiotic. It is one of the worst twists I have seen in a film in quite some time. It just made the whole thing feel like a complete waste of time. It's the type of narrative decision that you would write when you were writing creatively in a test or something, and you thought that you were doing the most genius thing ever, when in fact everyone's done it, and it's something that the teacher tells you not to do. It's something of that nature, and when I saw that, I just rolled my eyes a little bit in just frustration and just being appalled at how much this film just dropped the ball from everything that it could have been and set up. And I think that's what makes this film really frustrating. And honestly, this might be my least favorite film of the film festival so far. And I really hate to say that. I really wanted the best from this movie, but it was just not the case. And following this unlikable character who just wasn't a good time to follow with at all and wasn't all that compelling, her arc is very generic as a whole. It's also just so uninteresting that it was just a bit tedious and boring. It was one of those movies I was just kind of waiting to wrap up, and as it just kept going on, it felt like it had no ideas and no real direction of where to go. It felt like it was just more of an excuse to get up in these locations and film something, and I do think a much better plot could have been conceived here, because it's just such a waste of potential that it just boggles my mind that it went in that direction. And then in the post Q&A afterwards, McKenna went once again talking about the environment and all of these interesting facts and things like that. And I was just watching this Q&A, like, he's a very intelligent man who has such a wealth of knowledge about the environment. But I'm just going, why didn't you put all this in your movie? This would have been amazing. Use that expertise more. Like, why are we going down this other road here? Really dive into what you believe in, because that's what this is. This is a platform for you to do that in a way that only you can do it, and it just dropped the ball completely. And unfortunately, I just did not like my time with Wilderness. I cannot believe how much this really failed on a lot of fronts, and as a score, I'm going to have to give Wilderness a 1 out of 5. This was not a good movie at all, and just what a real shame, because this does have that potential. And those are my thoughts towards Wilderness. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.